I've been truly blessed, and that's from my heart, to have an opportunity to coach so many great young teenagers that turned into great men. If I've had just a little bit to do with that, I'm humbled. Going to get emotional here, but
it's okay.
it's part of my afraid to cry. Men cry.
Woo.
It's okay. I really think becoming a football coach started for me in 1942. My family had moved from Omaha, Nebraska, and yeah, I bleed Cornhusker red, to Canby, Oregon. My mother told me this story a number of years later, but she was looking for me and my older brother and our pet goat. We lived right across the street from the football field, and you had to know my mother to understand what she did. She couldn't find us. She looked across and football practice was going on, so she just marched right out on the field and right up to the head coach and said, "Have you seen my boys by chance?" He said, "Not by chance, ma'am. Those two boys and their pet goat are right over there in your grandsons." I can remember like it was yesterday, the first person that asked me, "What do you want to do, little Tommy, when you grow up?" And I said, "I want to be a football coach." Do you think maybe whoever was coaching that Canby football team impressed me as a 2-year-old? Holy cow. I mean, that's all I've ever wanted to be. When I had the opportunity to get into the profession, and I mean, I jumped at it. Yeah, Nick, I was a really shitty basketball coach. And if you want to know the truth, my 2-year record at Willamette as a basketball coach was 4 wins and 40 losses. I said to myself, "Self, you friggin' idiot, coach football, will you?" Nick is a special friend, and we've known each other since we pledged the ATO house at the University of Oregon, and we went through the tubbings down at the bottom, naked with people, you know, the guys spraying you with cold water. It's small enough, okay? And then when you get sprayed with cold, not good, not a good picture, okay? Anyway, as I was growing up in Lake Oswego and an aspiring football coach, my heroes, Terry Crabtree, were Pete Sussick at Marshfield, Scott Spiegelberg was your father, Fred, at Medford, Don Requa at Pendleton, and Mel Ingram at Grand. Before legends were born. They had the integrity that I tried to emulate. I decided way early I would never compromise my integrity to win a game. It was never going to happen, and that's still the case. You treat people right. You care about them, not just as a football player, but as a human being. I can remember telling players, you know, don't be a jerk to the nerd in the lunchroom. That guy might be your heart doctor someday. Don't do that. You know, be a good person. That's more important than being a good football player. I have to tell the story that, you know, I was influenced by my high school coaches. Cliff Giffen was my football coach, a great man who I later played for at the College San Mateo, and Bob Edwards, the basketball coach, and I could tell 100 stories about Bob. And Don Keeling was my baseball coach, and Ronnie's here tonight. Those 3 people taught me how to coach. They really did, because they cared. And I learned that as a teenager. If I hadn't learned it before, I certainly learned it from them. But I go to Willamina to coach, and the first coach that I coached with, I was an assistant football coach and head basketball coach. What a joke that was. But anyway, head coach, a guy named Gleason Aiken. And Gleason was a classic. But I tell you what, he says, Tom, okay, he hired me, and he says, get your ass down here 2 weeks before season starts. And we spent 2 weeks in intense clinics on the chalkboard, Thurman, for 8 hours a day, and drawing up this, that, and the other thing, and everything had a foot pattern, everything had a reeds and keys and all that stuff, and it was like, whoa, this is amazing. Little Willamina High School, and I'm learning from this god, Gleason Aiken. We go 7-2. We have a good football team, and I'm going, this is the way you coach football. Gleason left. Choctaw Smythe arrived. I'm there dutifully 2 weeks before practice starts, no Choctaw. A week before practice starts, I'm still there, no Choctaw. A day before practice starts, no Choctaw. I'm going, holy shit. And he shows up on the first day of practice. He walks in, he says, Tom Smythe? I said, yeah. And he says, okay, you're my assistant. I said, yeah, I guess so. And he says, okay, he says, take the skill guys down on the corner and run some drills. What? Run some drills? What? Oh, what's our cadence? What's our offense? Run some drills. I'll call you when I'm ready for you. Okay, I'm thinking Gleason Aiken would now die. We finished my hour. I was out of drills. And here come. Okay, come on up there. Okay. So he sets up the offense and the defense. He puts the kids out there, and he's going over the offense, and he says, okay, on this play, we're going to run a dive right. Okay, great. So he's telling everybody what to do. And the right tackle from Gleason's area says, what's my foot pattern on this play? Chaka looks at him, points at the defensive guy, your foot pattern is knock him on his ass. Okay? So then we get to the defensive side of the ball, and he lines up our 6-1 defense with a middle linebacker. And our returning middle linebacker was an all-league player, good kid. And so Choctaw goes through quickly, this, that, and the other thing. And then the middle linebacker says, well, coach, what are my keys? What are my reads? Choctaw looks at him and says, tackle the guy with a fucking ball. That team goes 7-2. And I said, there's more than one way to coach this game. And if people would ask me today, where do you fall on that, which one? Are you a Gleason guy or a Choctaw guy? I would say, well, I'm organized a little bit like Gleason, but knock him on his ass and tackle the guy with the ball. Works for me. It really does. I have to thank, without saying, I have to thank all you, of course, but I have to thank the game of football. Nancy and I had been married a few years, and we went to Germany over Christmas vacation in 1989 to visit her home state family that she had lived with for a couple of years. And being a German organized guy, we show up, and he realized that his daughter had married a football coach, and we walk in the door, and he's got lined out all the football in Europe, these teams he has, and here's a phone number, here's an address. And when I didn't have any clue that they played American football in Europe. It's 1959 in the Christmas season. And so I'm going, wow, football in Europe. Maybe I should think about this a little bit. We were in the Kris Kringle Mart listening to people talk, and he says to us, there's a lot of East German being spoken here tonight. And we're going, German's German, right? Deutsch, what the hell? But he knew, and he says, Tom, train, go to Berlin. The wall is coming down. We got on the train. We went to Berlin. 1989. I'll never forget standing on one side of the Brandenburg Gate with Nancy, and we looked over, and there was a gentleman on the east side standing there looking. over and we looked at each other and went, it's been 50 years since. 2 days later, the wall came tumbling down and that man did that. You could cut the tension and the emotion, you know, with the knife. It was so amazing. The reason I'm telling you this story is because football has taken me more than to Willamina, to Tigard, to Lake Oswego, to Kaiser, Oregon. Nancy and I were scouting a game my first year in Vienna, in Salzburg. And you have to understand that there's no football stadiums, there's no football fields. They drew the lines in a park, and they made the goalposts out of the soccer things. They put a couple of 2x4s up to make the goalposts. And we're standing there, and I'm looking at the goalposts, and the Alps, snow-covered Alps behind. And I turned to Nancy and I said, football has brought us. And it's just been an amazing 50-year ride, and the opportunity to coach fabulous. I didn't know you smoked pot, John. I did. What the hell? It was the 70s. Of course they were smoking pot, for God's sake. What the hell? They weren't drinking beer anymore, for God's sake. Anyway, you know, this last year has been an interesting year for sure, but you know what? It's a small blip in my career. I've forgotten most of it already. I don't care. I'm sitting in our living room and the phone rings, and it's a German voice. It's speaking English but with a German accent, and I had no plans to continue to coach. Honestly, I did not.